When people hear the name Lorraine Whittaker, their minds often go to isolation, tragedy, and pain. She is seen as a woman from such a secluded bloodline that society cast her aside for decades, a strange spectacle from the West Virginia mountains. She is the daughter of R.Y. and Elizabeth Whittaker, who were first-degree cousins. Lorraine's story starts with a choice that many find difficult to comprehend, yet it was a customary act in a community where social and geographical isolation shaped everyone's existence. In a remote little town named O.D., where options were scarce and potential marriage partners were almost non-existent, unions between close relatives became, in the view of many, a necessary practice. To outsiders, however, Lorraine and her family became a genetic case study, an insulated clan perpetuating a lineage shadowed by hardships that few ever attempted to fully grasp. For many, Lorraine symbolizes the tragedy of inbreeding, a woman whose name is spoken in hushed tones, carrying the invisible weight of society's judgment. Yet her life's narrative is not solely one of the physical and mental challenges stemming from a closed gene pool. It is also the tale of a woman who was marginalized and treated as an oddity, a distant and misinterpreted figure, spurned by a society that never made an effort to see her true self. But what most overlook, and what even fewer have bothered to understand, is that behind this facade of tragedy and suffering, Lorraine Whittaker is a unique individual. She is a woman who, despite every adversity life placed in her path, possesses an inner strength that many never learned to acknowledge. The truth that remains hidden is that deep down, Lorraine was always more than the stigma attached to her. She played a quiet but profoundly important role for her family and community. Her story is far more complex, more human, and more beautifully resilient than most could ever perceive. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. 3 times each week, I share real accounts of consanguinity, isolated families, and the genetic outcomes that require understanding. Hit the bell icon to make sure you don't miss these incredible, lesson-filled stories. Click subscribe now. Today, Lorraine Whittaker continues to live under the heavy burden of social stigma due to her origins. As the daughter of R.Y. and Elizabeth Whittaker, cousin marriage partners, Lorraine was and still is viewed as a genetic anomaly by the society surrounding her. The fact that her mother and father were cousins who married, creating a lineage marked by inbreeding, remains a source of prejudice and disgust for many people. In the present day, Lorraine bears not only the load of being the product of a practice many deem wrong or unnatural but also the constant judgment for a circumstance she did not choose, one imposed upon her by her parents' decisions. While some may view consanguinity as purely a genetic matter, for others, this origin is treated as a sin or a moral failing. Lorraine, to this day, is stigmatized because of her genetic background. The world around her still perceives her as an oddity, and her family's history is often reduced to a mere error or a genetic flaw, without any appreciation for the true complexity of her situation. For many, the fact of Lorraine's consanguineous parents and their marriage is a revolting issue, and the social prejudice surrounding it continues to dictate how she is treated. Even in an era more informed about genetics and health, Lorraine is met not with empathy, but with the weight of ignorance from a society that judges without understanding. People still regard her with suspicion and often keep their distance, as if her origins make her less deserving of equal treatment. The stigma Lorraine faces today isn't just about her physical appearance or the genetic issues she carries. The story of her family, particularly her parents being cousins, remains a cause for social exclusion. Although she is now an adult woman, society has never fully embraced her. Those who know her still treat her with doubt and alienation, rarely attempting to understand the real reasons behind who she is. Lorraine, with her physical differences and communication challenges, continues to be seen as an outcast, someone who doesn't conform to social norms. But what few realize is that she never chose her condition. She didn't choose to be born to consanguineous parents. She didn't choose her cognitive or physical struggles. All Lorraine ever wanted was to be seen as a normal person. Yet society rejects her for her origins, isolating her further. To many, she is a curiosity, someone to be observed and pushed to the margins. At the same time, Lorraine still encounters a lack of support from doctors, educators, and even social workers. She never received proper care to manage the difficulties that recessive diseases caused in her body and mind. The social neglect faced by the Whittaker family, both in the past and present, reflects the lack of resources and the isolation they experienced. There was no one to explain what was happening to her body and mind. And even now, support for her specific condition is limited. Lorraine continues to suffer because the options to help her are scarce, and the medical community has not done enough to provide adequate solutions. Today, Lorraine remains a profoundly isolated woman. Unlike those around her, the emotional loneliness she feels is deep. She exists in a bubble of rejection, constantly excluded or met with distance. Even as an adult, she cannot escape the effects of an isolation that began in her childhood. The absence of social acceptance and the scorn of others are the most significant emotional barriers she faces daily. The world around Lorraine, sadly, still sees her as a curiosity and, in many instances, as someone unworthy of understanding. The stigma of her birth and the judgments about her origin continue to weigh on her, restricting her interactions and her chances to build meaningful relationships. The people in her life, instead of offering humanity and compassion, see her only as the result of a genetic practice they don't understand. The social and emotional divides run deep, and Lorraine finds herself continually battling a stigma she did not choose. Despite her years, she still confronts immense emotional difficulties. The weight of her family history and the enduring social prejudice make each day a challenge. She struggles internally with feelings of inadequacy and being undervalued. In her mind, the judgment from others forms an emotional barrier that stops her from living a full and satisfying life. The shame enforced by society is a silent muzzle that prevents her from expressing herself freely. Although she is a woman living with many challenges, no one sees the person she truly is. Social judgment blocks her from showing her genuine humanity. She is not just a woman with physical differences and cognitive challenges. She is a person with profound feelings, desires, and a story that deserves to be told and understood, not judged. But behind the social stigma and the loneliness she endures, there is a strong, resilient woman who loves life. Lorraine has a story that extends far beyond judgment and exclusion. What many fail to realize is that she is so much more than her visible struggles. She is a woman of great inner strength, with a rich and emotionally complex history that society has forgotten. Lorraine is not just a woman marked by genetic problems or society's verdict. When we look at her life now, we see someone who, despite being marginalized, carries a quiet wisdom and a dignity that was never truly recognized. Her true essence goes beyond appearance or physical limitations. She is a woman with a strong soul and a resilient heart who, despite judgment and exclusion, continues to fight for her humanity, living with a spirit that remains unbroken. One of Lorraine's most overlooked qualities is her capacity for love and devotion. Rather than being seen as a woman defined by genetic tragedy, Lorraine has actually been a caregiver and a mother who always dedicated herself to her family. Despite society's judgments and marginalization, she has remained fiercely loyal to her own, always there for her children and siblings, caring for them with admirable patience, often without the recognition she deserved. Lorraine has been a woman of immense kindness who, despite her personal challenges, never failed to show unconditional love to her family. Even in her own lonely and isolated condition, she has been a pillar of support for her loved ones. She not only embraced her role as a mother but also showed immeasurable dedication to her brothers and relatives, always ready to care for them even when she herself was overlooked by others. What society doesn't grasp is that Lorraine's strength lies not in her appearance or communication difficulties, but in the depth of her love and her capacity to care for others. The way she meets her life's challenges with a warm heart is an example of resilience. Even when ignored and treated with prejudice, she continues to care for those she loves. This aspect of her character, the ability to give love even when she receives little in return, is one of her greatest qualities. Lorraine's true greatness is not in the physical distortions or genetic errors caused by consanguinity, but in the sheer willpower she demonstrates every day. She lives in a society that does not understand her and rejects her based on deep-seated prejudice. But she still does not surrender. Instead of being consumed by pain or loneliness, Lorraine continues to fight for her dignity and her humanity. Her inner strength is what keeps her standing, facing both physical and emotional challenges, as well as the lack of understanding from society regarding her condition. In the present, Lorraine does not live in silence, but still faces the loneliness of being perceived only for her appearance and the prejudice many hold against her. Societal rejection is not easy to overcome, but Lorraine persists, finding the strength to live and maintain her identity. Despite all adversities, she is a woman of decency, defined not by the limitations society has imposed, but by her resilience. Throughout her life, Lorraine has become an introspective woman, someone who has learned to embrace her solitude in a way few can comprehend. The loneliness she experienced did not break her. Instead, it made her a deeper, more reflective person. She came to understand that society might judge her for what she appeared to be, but that did not define her essence. Lorraine, even while isolated in many ways, found a path to self-understanding and acceptance of her difficulties. The inner wisdom she has cultivated over time is a reflection of her daily struggle to accept and comprehend her own journey. Loneliness, often seen as a hardship, became for Lorraine an opportunity for emotional growth and finding peace. She did not need society's acceptance to find happiness or fulfillment. Her strength lies in overcoming adversities alone and discovering within herself what truly matters. Even with all the rejection, contempt, and isolation, Lorraine remains steadfast, refusing to let external opinions define who she is. Lorraine's true legacy is not found in society's judgment or the genetic distortions she carries. Her legacy lies in her ability to rise each day, to care for her family with unconditional love, and to be a woman of immense strength and wisdom. Hers is a story of resistance, of a woman who, faced with a life marked by stigma, never allowed herself to be defeated. The world sees her one way, but Lorraine Whittaker is far more than that. She is the definition of resilience and love. She is someone who has lived a life full of adversity but never lost the ability to love, to care, and to fight. She is not a genetic curiosity or a tragedy, but a woman who, despite all difficulties, leaves a mark of courage and humanity. Currently, Lorraine Whittaker and her family, especially with increasing exposure on social media, continue to live a life where public judgment is part of their daily reality. Social networks, a mirror of modern society, have become a platform where personal stories are shared but often viewed from a shallow perspective. Lorraine, as part of the Whittaker family, has been exposed to ruthless and critical opinions, usually based solely on genetic appearance and prejudice. But within this judgment, there is always a layer of humanity that many miss. While many continue to look with disdain and skepticism, there are those who choose to act differently, with empathy and compassion. The destructive criticism found in social media comments does not determine Lorraine's worth but reflects society's lack of understanding about genetic issues and social isolation. However, the Whittakers' story is not confined to criticism and superficial judgments. After the family gained visibility, Lorraine's story touched the hearts of many good and supportive people who saw a genuine opportunity to help. These individuals recognized that the Whittakers were not a joke or a mere curiosity, but a family with real needs, deserving of assistance and understanding. As a result, support initiatives began to emerge. Financial contributions, material aid, and efforts to improve the family's living conditions. These acts of solidarity started to alleviate some of the family's immediate hardships. Donations allowed Lorraine and her relatives to better their housing, purchase food, and acquire basic clothing and essentials. This support was vital in meeting the family's fundamental needs. However, while material aid was significant, the real help the Whittaker family requires goes beyond finances. Despite good intentions, the medical and psychological assistance that Lorraine and her family truly need remains a major, unresolved obstacle. Financial help was crucial for immediate living conditions, but the impact of cognitive and physical difficulties resulting from extreme consanguinity cannot be fixed by donations alone. Lorraine, like other Whittaker family members, still faces a lack of access to specialized treatment, which is not readily available. Geographical isolation and the shortage of specialized doctors remain significant challenges. Furthermore, the absence of psychological support is also a critical factor. The social stigma and emotional loneliness that Lorraine has endured her entire life have not been resolved by specific aid actions. She still grapples with the emotional difficulties of being seen as a societal curiosity, and this requires ongoing psychological care. The expert psychological treatment she and her family need to address the impact of their emotional state remains an unmet necessity. Lorraine Whittaker's story is not unique in the sense that many isolated and marginalized people face similar struggles. Her situation highlights how modern society often fails to provide comprehensive support to those who need it most. The help for Lorraine, while meaningful from parts of the community, is still limited. The lack of understanding about genetic consanguinity and social isolation prevents aid from reaching the more complex areas of medical, psychological, and educational care. The true reflection here is about what it means to genuinely help. It is not enough to provide short-term financial donations or one-off acts of aid. What the Whittaker family truly needs is continuous support from a structured network that extends beyond momentary gestures. A deep understanding of their needs must be a priority, and solidarity must translate into concrete actions aimed at transforming Lorraine's and her family's lives in the long term. The story of the Whittakers, especially Lorraine, reminds us that solidarity must be more than occasional actions. It requires a real commitment to the well-being of those who, like Lorraine, live on the edges of society with few resources and even less effective support. The Whittakers' story challenges us to rethink how we treat the most vulnerable. By acknowledging hidden difficulties, humanizing individuals, and acting in a continuous and meaningful way, we can ensure everyone has a chance to overcome adversity and live a dignified life. True solidarity is given without expectation, with understanding and a commitment to building a fairer, more inclusive society. Today, you are invited to learn a story not just of hardship and suffering, but also of resilience, love, and humanity. Lorraine Whittaker is a woman who, despite everything life imposed on her, continued to fight, to survive, and above all, to love unconditionally. Her history is marked by genetic distortions arising from past choices within a society characterized by isolation and prejudice. Daughter of Ray and Elizabeth Whittaker, Lorraine grew up in a closed world where consanguineous marriages were common. Her life, marked by loneliness and social isolation, has often been denied by society. Because of this, her true essence and human value were eventually forgotten, reduced to a genetic case study. But today, we have the opportunity to change that. Lorraine's story should no longer be one of marginalization. She deserves to be recognized not as someone living in her family's shadow, but as a woman of courage, love, and compassion. Social judgment of Lorraine has always been superficial. Many see only her appearance and the physical distortions caused by consanguinity, failing to perceive the true strength within. Lorraine is not a genetic tragedy, nor should she be seen as a woman without worth. She is a mother, a sister, a daughter with deep feelings and a story that is not merely about past mistakes. She is more than the stigmas society has placed upon her. As a society, we have a profound responsibility to see others with empathetic and understanding eyes. Lorraine has always been treated as a curiosity, but the truth is she is a woman of great dignity, strength, and wisdom. Today, you have the power to help change the narrative about her. By leaving supportive comments, you can become the light she has always needed to emerge from the shadow of judgment. You can be the reason Lorraine feels seen and valued for the remarkable woman she truly is. Imagine if everyone who learned a story as important as Lorraine's did something to help. It's easy to think that solidarity only happens when we are physically close, but that isn't true. In our world, virtual support can be incredibly powerful. By leaving kind and positive comments, you will show Lorraine that she is not alone. She might finally feel that she is not a curiosity, but a woman who is truly loved and understood. Every word you write could be the emotional turning point she needs to find peace with her story. Lorraine, you are not invisible. Your strength inspires us all. This is the kind of message she needs to read. A simple positive comment can change Lorraine's day and help heal the emotional wounds she carries. Instead of viewing her story through the lens of judgment, let's all choose to see her humanity. She is not just a victim of genetics. She is a woman with a heart, a soul, and a rich, unique history. It is all too easy to fall into the trap of seeing Lorraine as an isolated figure and labeling her negatively. But the truth is, by understanding the complexity of her life, we realize that the greatest gift we can give her is the recognition of her true self. And that is why, right now, You have a chance to be a light in Lorraine's life. Let us together make her story one worthy of empathy and compassion. Let's break down the barriers of judgment and support those who need it most. Lorraine is a woman who deserves to be loved, respected, and valued. Her story is not a shame, but an example of resilience, unconditional love, and fighting for one's family. By supporting her, you help rescue the woman who has always been hidden behind the stigma, forgotten for so long. Now, I invite you to be the change we wish to see in Lorraine's life. Leave a comment of support, share her story with others, and help spread solidarity. Here are some ready-made phrases for you to leave in the comments and help Lorraine feel more seen. Lorraine, you are an amazing woman and deserve all the love and respect. Your story inspires us, Lorraine. May your strength be recognized by all. Lorraine, you are more than the stigmas you have faced. You are a true warrior. I am grateful to know your story, Lorraine. Your courage teaches us all. In addition to leaving your comments, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. The more people who learn the true story of Lorraine, the more she will be rescued from invisibility. Let's make the world see the incredible woman she is, not as a stigma, but as someone deserving of respect and understanding. Her story deserves to be rewritten, and together, we can be responsible for this change. The story of Lorraine Whittaker challenges us to look beyond labels and prejudice. Each of us can be the light that helps rescue someone from a life of judgment and rejection. Lorraine, despite the difficulties and challenges she faced, deserves to be seen, understood, and supported for her true humanity. If you believe everyone deserves second chances and that love and compassion can change a life, then help rewrite Lorraine's story. Be the change. Be the light.